Welcome to the Body Harmonix Podcast, where we move freely, heal deeply, and flow with ease. I'm your host, Renee McLaughlin, somatic educator and the creator of Body Harmonix. For over 30 years, I've guided people like you out of pain and limitation and back into your body's innate wisdom. Are you ready to awaken your life? Let's dive in. Welcome everyone to today's episode of the Body Harmonix Podcast. And today, oh my goodness, I am thrilled to introduce to you Stef Warner. Now, let me just share how I know Stef quickly, and then I'm going to share her bio, and then we're going to chat all things frequency healing. So I met Stef because, well, I was on the Book of Faces one day. I saw this gorgeous human, and she's talking about this frequency app. And I'm looking at it. It happens to be called the AO Scan by a company called Solex Global. And I'm looking at it. Well, I already had a system called the Life System. And it was on my laptop. It was actually based in the laptop. And I loved it. But it was very cumbersome and very time consuming and very expensive. And I was working with clients with it. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful system. And then I see this Stef has this other system, and I'm looking at this system. She has it on her phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and look how fast it is. I just paid all this money for this, and I can get this app that is that much more expansive and user-friendly, and I was hooked. And that was how I began and really met Stef. So let me give you her beautiful bio, and I'm going to be looking down because I want to make sure that I get every word right. So Stef Warner is a passionate, and she is, advocate for frequency-focused holistic healing. Here's part of Stef's story. After overcoming years of chronic illness caused by toxic mold exposure, and she used homeopathy, which of course is energy medicine, she developed a deep appreciation for the power of bioenergetic healing. Now, this is not the end of this particular part of the story, because then her daughter was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, which happens to be at epidemic levels. And her daughter was age 2 at that point. So through this journey, Stef discovered the profound healing effects of PEMF, neurofeedback therapy, light therapy, frequency music, and vibration. So for the past 4 years, Stef's built a business dedicated to empowering women and holistic practitioners with the tools and resources they need to heal themselves, their families, and their clients. So by integrating innovative quantum technology with the healing power of nature, she simplifies wellness and helps others unlock their full energetic potential. Thanks so much, Stef, for coming on. And welcome.
Thank you, Renee. Yes, I'm so glad to be here. This is my favorite thing to talk about. And of course, you have the most amazing energy. So I love sharing this space with you and being able to talk about our stories and our experiences with this incredible technology. So thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And something that you just said, I so resonate in that is, you and I could spend hours upon hours talking about energy and frequency healing and this healing and that healing. And you know what, Stef? Here's what I know. All this is great information, and it's just more information. So when someone says, well, tell me, what is this doing and how is this working? And I start sharing information, because you know what? Energy and frequency healing, well, yes, it is extremely science-based because it is quantum physics, and quantum physics and science has now basically proven spirituality. I'm just going to say that, right? I mean, it's just amazing where we're at right now, and we're just in its infancy. So what I prefer to do is to share experience, stories. Okay, so you use this And what happened? How did you experience a shift in health, a shift in how we are in the world? So, can you kind of just, wherever you want to start with this, I would love, love, love to hear more of your story.
Yeah, well, I should probably start by saying that I was like a lot of people. This was not on my radar at all. I come from a very traditional medical background as far as the types of treatments that I used to pursue for illnesses and ailments. My mom was a registered nurse, and so growing up, we were always on antibiotics when we got sick. We were taking Tylenol and ibuprofen all of the time for everything. And that was normal for us, right? It's normal for most people.
Right.
I had no clue about the holistic realm of healing and alternative medicines, other than like occasionally my dad would take some herbal supplements. And I had a grandma who took some herbal supplements, but that was like the extent of my awareness of this whole different dimension, right? It really is like a totally
I
different
love that. Just right. Exactly.
um, and it wasn't until I got really, really sick. I had been connected with a naturopathic practitioner when I was pregnant, actually, with my daughter, my second child. We met, we were both pregnant at the same time. We were in the same pregnancy little group together. I really clicked with her. And a lot of the things that she was saying and recommendations that she was making to all the other pregnant women in this group just really resonated with me. And so I started to see her just for some small things here and there after I had my daughter. And then uh, into that journey with her, I became really, really sick. I was sleeping up to 18 hours a day.
Wow.
I was taking my son and my daughter to preschool, dropping them off at daycare for just a couple of hours each day so that I could go home, get back in bed, and sleep the whole entire time that they were gone. Then I would wake up, bring them home. My husband would come home from work, and I would go to bed so early because I could not function. And it was something that I was like, well, I'm a busy mom. I'm still nursing. Maybe this is just normal. But it's when I started coughing really bad. I had a chronic cough. I had chronic sinus infections. I had chronic respiratory infections. And it got to a point that I was coughing so hard that I would vomit.
Whoa.
And this was happening on a weekly basis where it just kept going. No matter what I was doing, nothing was working. And my naturopathic physician said, I really think that you should get your house checked for mold. And so we did. We hired a company to come out and do like an overnight air sample of our basement. And he called me a few days later and said, ma'am, I have never seen numbers this high, and I have been doing this for 30 years. It's
Wow.
like, I don't know what is going on in your basement, but if I were you, I would not set foot back in your house.
Wow.
And I was in my car driving home from picking up my kids when he called me, talked to him, and I was like, okay, we have to get out of the house. This is our sign. So, because of that whole journey, I had to go through a detox process of getting the mold out of my body. My whole family was living in that house. My daughter was born into this moldy house that had astronomical levels of mold in it because there was leaks in the walls of our whole entire basement. It was like a
Uh-oh.
3,000 square foot house, and the whole entire basement had water leaking behind the walls, and we had no idea. Um, so I started taking homeopathy and also some other energy medicine modalities from this practitioner. And that was really my introduction to energy. And what's funny about a chronic illness journey is that you kind of start going down a rabbit hole.
Yes, you do.
Start learning one thing, then you start asking questions and you start doing your own research and you start listening to other experts. And it was the energy medicine part of things that I just could not get enough of. It was so fascinating to me. So fast forward just a few months, I was in the middle of my healing journey because my immune system was so suppressed from the mold. I actually got a second MRSA infection, which is the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, really bad infection on my leg. Had to be on antibiotics, had to be hospitalized for that. It was like the lowest point of my life, right? I had literally hit rock bottom, I thought. And then like a month later, my daughter started showing all of these signs and symptoms where she could not have clothes on her body. She
Oh,
was
geez.
constantly taking her clothes off. She hated wearing shoes. She would scream, when we would put her diaper on her and she would rip off her diaper. She was not potty trained at the time.
Oh,
She would wake up every single night screaming bloody murder. She was having what I think most people would consider probably night terrors, but they weren't really night terrors. It was the feeling of her sheets touching her body was
wow.
making her nervous system explode, essentially. She was in constant fight or flight 24/7. And we finally started taking her to an occupational therapist that had some tools and therapies that were supposed to help her. And after months of doing that, nothing helped. And then we moved to Omaha in the middle of all of this. And I took her to the top specialist of orthopedic therapy for children who specializes in sensory processing disorder. And my daughter saw her every single week for about 6 weeks. And her last appointment, she called me in and she was like, listen, I just want to let you know I'm going to be discharging your daughter because none of the therapies that I am using on her are working. And she's like, I don't want to keep taking your money. There's just something about whatever is going on with your daughter that is, I'm not helping her. And I'm sorry, but I just don't know what to do. And at that point, I was completely lost. And I literally went on a walk, shouted and screamed at God. And I was like, send me the healer that is going to help my daughter. We had been living for a year in absolute misery where sometimes I couldn't even leave the house because she could not be buckled into her car seat. Her car seat would make her have severe panic attacks and her body would just freak out.
Baby.
So it was an incredibly challenging time. And when I shouted out that prayer to God in my moment of desperation, I went home because I had a list of practitioners in a journal that I keep. And I had literally crossed off every single practitioner. I had called them, interviewed them, and I just knew that they were not the right fit. The very bottom of that list was a man named Jamie Moore. And he was at the bottom of my list because he offered neurofeedback therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And on his website, it showed him doing brain scans, QEEG brain scans of adults. And I was like, my daughter won't even keep her clothes on. How is this guy going to put a cap on her head, make her sit still and scan her brain? I just didn't even think that it was
But
possible.
that's why I would be the same way. Like, oh
But
no.
it was my last resort. I call him, I explain what's going on with my daughter, and he says, when she has her meltdowns, is there anything that you can do that can help her? Talking to her, touching her, comforting her. And I said, no, there's absolutely nothing that I can do. He's like, is it like she just has to run through the meltdown and then it turns off like a switch? And then she just gets up and goes about her day like nothing happened. And I was like, yes, that is exactly what happens. I literally have to sit there and listen to her scream for an hour. And then all of a sudden she's done like nothing happened. And he said, I specialize in working with children with sensory processing disorder. And it's like, when they receive sensory input, it's like a radio station is sending radio frequencies to their nervous system, but their nervous system distorts the radio frequency and all their brain hears is static.
Oh.
And what's happening to their brain, which is like their sensory processing system or their central processing unit of a computer, is very similar to when a computer has the the spiraling doom, right? Where it just keeps
That, right.
the spinning wheel. And he's like, if you tap on the keyboard, if you try to close out the browser window, if you try to shut down, you just keep adding more sensory input and more information. And it's just going to take that much longer for the computer to process all of the information. But then once it's done processing the information, your computer functions fine and it's ready to go. And as he is explaining this to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, no one has ever explained it in a way where it sounds like they truly understand what's going on with my child. So I was like, all right, I'm going to give this guy a chance. And this is the kicker. I could not leave my house because I could not drive in my car with my daughter. And I had asked God to send me the healer that would help her. And I said to him, I can't find your location on your website. Your address isn't listed. Can you tell me where you're located? I don't even know if I can get to you. So he gave me his address and I looked it up on Google while we're on the phone. And I said, this looks like this is a house. Is your clinic in a house? And he said, yeah, I actually operate my clinic out of my home. And I go, it looks like your house is in my neighborhood. He's like, yeah, I live, and this is the neighborhood. And it turned out that I could walk to his house.
Oh my God.
And yeah.
That's wild.
So we took her to the initial appointment where he did just an assessment and explained to us how his system works. And he went above and beyond neurofeedback therapy. He offered frequency music, sound therapy, and light therapy, and vibrational therapy, and PEMF, and crystals, and all of these things that I had never heard of before. But I was like, I will literally try anything at this point because we are absolutely desperate. Yeah. So it turned out that he was able to do a scan on my daughter's brain, and she was like a classic case of sensory processing disorder as far as what her brain looked like. And she sat for him and did the QEEG and wore the cap, and she was able to sit in my lap. And it was just an amazing experience. And what he did from then on, we saw him for about 18 months. We went to his house and she received treatment from him. But I learned so much from him about frequencies. And what was very interesting is every time we would come to an appointment, he had a chart of Dr. Masaru Emoto's water crystals. And each of those water crystals, if you're not familiar, Dr. Masaru Emoto studied water and energy's impact on water. And when you use certain frequencies or speak certain positive affirmations or words of love and positivity to water, and then you freeze it, the crystals form in these really beautiful formations. But if you say negative things to the water or use negative frequencies like heavy metal music, or, hatred words to water, then the crystals form in these really sort of hideous,
very
structures.
Chaotic.
Chaotic structures that don't look like pretty little snowflakes. And so he would show us this chart, and he would ask my daughter to choose which snowflake she liked the most that day. And every single snowflake correlated with a different frequency. It was like 528 hertz or 432 hertz or 941 hertz. And he had this special frequency music that he would play for 20 minutes straight while she was receiving her treatment. And so I was introduced to sound therapy in this way, and it absolutely transformed my daughter. She went from being in fight or flight 24/7 to this calm little toddler that would sit down and color. She would sing to herself. I had never heard her sing in her whole life, and she sat down and was singing to herself. She started sleeping better. She was just so much more relaxed. Her meltdowns were decreasing. She was able to wear clothes. She was able to get in her car seat again. So it was a complete transformation that I witnessed with my own two eyes. And I never would have believed it if somebody would have said, like, oh, hey, why don't you go try frequency stuff for your kids' sensory issues? I would have been like, that doesn't, what? I don't even know what that is. So that was my introduction to it, energy and frequency, and getting a real life experience of seeing how much it can change the body. And what's fascinating about also about what he did is he put frequency devices, these nodes that did pulsed electromagnetic frequencies on her gut. He didn't place them on her brain like a lot of neurofeedback therapists do. He placed them on her gut. And he said the reason that she's having such a hard time is because her liver is inflamed and her whole gut is inflamed. And we need to calm down her gut so that it can better communicate with her brain, that gut brain connection. And I really believe it's because we have so much fascia in our gut, and fascia is like this quantum computing system for our body that senses energy and frequency in both our inner world and our outer world. And so, yeah, so long story short, that's my introduction to all of this. And I just want people to know that it's not like I was seeking this out. It's not like I was some expert in frequency medicine or quantum physics. I do consider myself very well educated in the field now that I'm, almost 9 years into it. But fast forward through that, we had gone through our treatment with him. We had to stop seeing him because the pandemic hit, and he had to close down his practice because it was based out of his home, and he was actually fighting stage 4 cancer while he was seeing us. So he could not have anybody come into his home during that time. But I was then able to go and do my own research and find my own tools and things. Like, I wanted to have all of his equipment in my home. And I was praying. I was like, God, show me how I can do this for my daughter and continue this practice for her. And it was in the fall of 2020. So just a few months after we stopped seeing him, that my sister called me one day. And she said, I found this technology and you're not going to believe this, but I just had an amazing result from it. And she was working as a holistic practitioner in a wellness center at the time. Someone had come in to do a demonstration of AO scan for everyone that worked in the office. And this individual did a scan on my sister, imprinted frequencies into her wedding rings for cysts. She had a cyst in her left breast that she was aware of. It was benign, but it had been there for a really long time. And so she had these frequencies imprinted to her wedding rings. She had never done anything like that before either.
Right.
But 3 days later, she had kind of forgotten about it. She was nursing her daughter and she was like, oh yeah, I should check my cyst. And she could not find it. It had completely dissolved. And so she called me and she was like, I think this is a really incredible technology. We really need to look into this, just use it for ourselves and our families. And so we did. We got it for ourselves. We started using it. We were absolutely blown away by the scans, by the results, by the reports, by how our kids were changing after listening to the frequency music. And then we were like, this seems like a really good business opportunity too. The company was just about to launch where you could be a part of the business opportunity. And so then in January of 2021, we helped to launch Solex and we hit the ground running. And now it's been a little over 4 years and we have hundreds and thousands of amazing testimonials from people using this in their professional practice, but also in their personal lives, because it really is designed for anyone to have access to. It is an app you can access on any phone, tablet, or computer. And so, yeah, I will let you decide how you want to continue from here. Yeah.
What a story. I'm just still reeling from that amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I did not know the majority of that. That's just fascinating. So, the AO scan technology, just a couple things that I will say about it as well. And so Steph just told us it is an app and you get it anywhere that you get an internet connection, which is just breathtaking. And the technology is so advanced. And Lauren Swenson, who is the developer of this, and I'm assuming the president of the company, regardless, he's the developer. He just keeps making it better and better and adding and adding and adding to it. And it's so even like 2 years ago when I started to where it is now, it's like, oh, and then you've just added this and then you've just added that. He keeps the cost really affordable. He never changes it. And there's just so much to it, which for me, I haven't really done a lot of sharing of it, not because I don't love it and think it's incredible, but because it's like I tend to overtalk and overshare because I get overexcited. Can anybody tell that? And then it's like, woo, okay, Renee, too much, back off. But now it's come to such a point, and I'm getting so many just amazing results from it, as are, as you said, thousands and thousands of people. And I'm like, with my new site, the Body Harmonix, I cannot keep it to myself. I just can't. It's when you know what you know,
Yeah.
to not share it is just, it's awful. You can't, anyway,
Yeah.
I
It
can't.
feels like a crime to keep it to yourself, right?
Exactly, because that means I'm just making it all about myself and not about helping others. There's just so much to it. So, Steph had reached out to me about a month ago and said, Renee, can you share? And she was doing a webinar on with having people that have had great success on there. She said, can you share a great success? And I'm thinking, okay, like which one would I want to share? And then I had something happen. So I am going to share this one and I'm going to turn it back over to you for maybe a couple other shares. Like a couple days later, which was like, okay, I guess that was supposed to happen. So I was online with a friend of mine, and we were actually working on the new site. And all of a sudden, I look at my hands, especially around my knuckles, and they are turning bright red. And then I'm seeing my skin turn red up to here with a little line like that. And that was exactly what happened when I had my chronic condition, which actually ended up being a type of Staphylococcus aureus systemic infection. And I would turn that bright red. And I'm watching this. Now I'm not really feeling much, except I noticed that I was a little stressed. We were doing some work. I thought I was just focused, but apparently this body was like, no, there's stress that I wasn't even aware of. So my body was giving me a message.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I need to get off right now. Can you see this? You could watch it on the camera. Immediately I got off. I took my phone. I got right into my AO scan technology and I did my inner voice. So I was able to speak into it. And then it gave me back balancing harmonics. I put my headset on. I just sat. I did some breathing and listened to my harmonics. And I mean, it probably wasn't more than between 5 and 10 minutes. And I watched it all disappear and it has not come back. Now that you can't make that up. And
Right.
you could, and you could say, oh, it's this and that, because isn't that what we always do? We create stories around what's going on in this body, because the bottom line is we don't really know what's going on in here. There
Right.
are gazillions of things. This body is so amazing. So when we're getting messages from it that something's off, our mind starts to create stories around it. I know for myself, my story was always about what I was eating, and right, external put it into this body. What am I eating? Why? Because I thought I could control that,
Yeah.
until it got down to I was eating three things and I was still bright red. So with the scanner, you can scan and it will tell you, it will show you, and it will give you some balancing harmonics to begin to allow the body to heal itself. So that was an immediate one for me. But Steph, I'd love to just turn it over to you if you could just share one or two additional ones, other
Yeah.
other than the amazing ones that you got for your own
Yeah,
family.
absolutely. Well, like at a fundamental level, we are quantum beings. Everything is energy, including us and our bodies and how our bodies function. And I truly believe that it is our energy field that actually dictates the form of our body and its function. And so, if our energy field is out of whack, whether that's because we're under stress, because we're experiencing some level of chronic illness, or we have some trauma from the past that is still resonating and vibrating in our body, that is going to shift and change how our organ systems function, how our nervous system functions, and how we perceive the world and how we approach the world. And so, what's amazing about AOScan is that it speaks the language of your body.
Oh,
It knows quantum energy because that is how it is programmed. There's over 180,000 unique frequencies that the human body generates. Every single cell, every single tissue, organ, and system has a unique frequency. And because there is a cataloged, essentially like blueprint catalog of what all of those healthy vibrations should be, when you speak into the AO scan, your voice is a direct reflection of your body's energy field because your voice is frequency. Sound is frequency. And it is telling a story about what is happening inside your body. So I do have some amazing testimonials, but I just want people to know that this is so simple and easy to use. Like in times of need, when I have had emergency situations happening, like you just, had happened recently, it's not like you have to understand this whole complex computer system and, go through all of these different steps. It is literally a one tap wellness system. You tap one button and you are on your way to receiving a solution within seconds. So the ways that I have used it, especially in like emergency situations like that, is I previously experienced some pretty chronic digestive issues because of everything that I had been through with mold toxicity. It tanked my hormones. And for the last almost 2 years, I've been on a hormone healing and gut healing journey, which I'm excited to share that I just got lab work literally 2 days ago that showed that every single one of my biomarkers in my blood work is completely normal and balanced. We're
oh,
talking hormones, we're talking inflammation levels. Like this is probably the healthiest I have ever been. And it is thanks to my AO scan showing me in my reports that I had some pretty serious hormone issues, insulin level issues, blood sugar balance issues that were showing up in my scan over time that I finally went to a practitioner to do something about it. I knew that I was feeling awful and terrible, but I didn't know, like, what is it?
right?
What is,
Let me
there's
make
just
up a
that
story,
it could
right?
be.
What
My
is this?
scan was like, it is this, it is this, it is this over and over and over again. And after several months, I was like, okay, I cannot ignore this anymore. I need to actually go in, get my lab work done. My lab work showed the same thing that my AO scan was showing me.
Bing.
So the ways that I've used it for acute stuff, is on a very rare occasion, I will have severe abdominal pain that will come out of nowhere. It literally brings me to my knees. Sometimes I'm in like the fetal position, sweating, crying, shaking. It is so painful. And I have learned that I am so grateful to have my AO scan because frequencies are phenomenal for digestive issues. And so there's a frequency in my AO scan for that's called abdominal pain. There's also some for like constipation, colon inflammation, gastritis, gas pains, things of that nature. But when I run my frequency list for this specific abdominal pain issue that I've experienced a few times, when I tell you that I go from feeling like I might have to go to the emergency room 1 second to like not even 5 minutes later, being able to stand up, go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, sit on my bed, listen to my music, and feel zero pain in minutes.
Wow.
That has happened to me probably at least 4 times now, where AO scan has been an off switch to some really severe pain.
Wow.
And it's like, I don't know, you can't make that up.
No.
Like pain does not just like turn itself off. And so that's been my personal experience where it has just really saved me in tricky situations like that. But on a day-to-day basis, it's like this, it's a frequency first aid kit that I run to as a mom, as just a busy human being for any little thing that comes up in my life. If I am feeling really moody about something, or because I'm like PMSing or something, then I have a frequency for that. If I have a headache come on because I haven't drank enough water and I'm dehydrated, I have a frequency for that. If my children are having some emotional roller coaster or meltdown or upset, I have frequencies. I have sound therapy music, and it turns it off instantly. I have seen my kids go from absolute meltdown to calm and collected and no longer crying in minutes after listening to their frequency music. And how many moms out there are just, and this used to be me, right? You just sit and wait until it's over.
Oh, goodness.
Or you try to distract them or redirect them or get them some food or whatever they need. But it truly is like such an incredible blessing as a parent. And then from a business perspective, it's been an incredible blessing too, because the way the company is set up, you can become an affiliate with the company and earn commissions off of sharing this with others. And so that's really how I've built my business, because I am so passionate about giving people the right tools and resources to help them on their wellness journey, no matter where they're at. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that AO Scan can meet you where you're at, whether you are just starting, whether you have been doing this for years, whether you are a practitioner wanting to help people. And we just have so many amazing stories like the ones that I have shared and like what you've shared. I hear them every single day, that I sometimes joke and tell people that I witness miracles for a living, because what the stories that I hear are nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, Stef, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. And so just beautifully well languaged. Man, if I didn't already have it and love it, I'd want it right now. And luckily I have it.
Yes.
And I so agree with you about all those things. And, for me, this is my entire wellness clinic in my hand. There is everything you need. Now, having said that, I do want to make a little bit of a disclaimer, which is neither Stef or I are suggesting that there is not a place for traditional medical treatment, for traditional medicines, if that's needed. Certainly you get hurt and you're going to go to the emergency room. So we tend to think in these dualities. It's either or. That's
Yeah.
not at all what we are saying. We are saying, yes, there's a place for that, but look, there's a place for this, especially when we're talking about chronic conditions, and especially when we're speaking about the emotional body. And
Yeah.
one of the things, I'm just going to mention this, and then we should probably close out. But the one thing that I find really, really blow away amazing is the idea that we can speak the words, oh yes, I know my emotions affect my physical body, right? I think most of us
Mhm.
intelligent people who have studied this at all will absolutely agree with that. But when you get the AO scan and you start speaking into it, seeing what it reveals, and start, scanning and optimizing and seeing what comes up, you really get, wow, my emotions truly affect every system in this body. And
Mhm.
so if there is one thing to really scan and harmonize on a daily basis, it's your emotions and the emotional body. And I have never found anything, and I've studied this for over 30 years, that can do
Mhm.
it better than this.
Yeah.
And part of the AO scan system called the inner voice, although that's just one small amount, but it's a beautiful place to start and to put on those healing frequencies and just feel. Here's what happens. I put them on and I go from there to here.
Yes.
And now
Yeah.
I'm ready to go in through the rest of my day. So, Stef, once again, thank you so much. I'm going to have you back on here, hopefully,
Sure, yeah.
because there's just so much to talk about with
Oh,
this,
yeah.
right? And you are such a beautiful expert and sharer. So, thank you so much.
Yes, thank
And
you for having me.
for those of you that are interested, would like more information, maybe even would like to experience your own inner voice healing, there'll be, wherever you're listening to this, a place to send a comment, send a message, and I'd love to help you out with that. So, Steph, once again, thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you, and
Bye-bye.
we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you for joining me today on the Body Harmonix Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something inside of you, a reminder to slow down, breathe deeply, and come back home to your body. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave a review. It's the best way to help us share this message and keep these heart-centered conversations going. And if you're eager and ready to go deeper, connect with me on social media at Body Harmonix, or head over to our website for free resources, upcoming retreats, and ways to move, heal, and flow together. And until next time, remember, move freely, heal deeply, and flow with